Hello, welcome to my other show. My name is Susan Rushton and this is Muse. This is the show on which I get to talk to people who are involved with the arts in all of their iterations, and which is why I call it Muse. Today my guest is Jim Crosthwaite, who has, you know, like people, everybody in this particular room have been around since dirt was invented, been around Auburn and the Auburn area since dirt was invented, and now he is executive director of Placer Arts. If you want to contact the Arts Council of Placer County, he corrected me.
It's a quarter fine for every time that she says the wrong thing.
So think that. Arts Council of Placer County at placerarts.org, which is why I get confused. If you are interested in contacting him, executive director at placerarts.org, office at placerarts.org. That's the email address. And if you want to phone them, 916-209-6778 or 5440 Park Drive, Suite 102A in Rockland. And that's what we'll start with. Jim, thank you very much for joining me.
Thanks for having me here, Susan.
And let's talk about the Arts Council of Placer County's move to Rockland.
Okay, great. Well, I don't really consider it a move. I think that what we really talk about is that we have had to have a shift in focus for what the Arts Council is. So when I came on as a consultant in May of last year, we were very much in jeopardy of not renewing our contract for what we were supposed to do. So to explain that a little bit, we have a contract with Placer County because we're the designated arts partner of Placer County, which also means we're the designated arts partner of the California Arts Council. By doing that, we have a scope of work. So at the time, we weren't really doing what our scope of work was supposed to be, and so we worked very hard with the county to redo that scope. And one of the focuses was to not operate our own programs, gallery, yet we were supposed to be supporting all of the programs in Placer County.
Okay.
So the move so what we did was we closed down the gallery we had in Auburn, and we do have an executive office in Rockland, but quite honestly, it's just a little office, probably as big as the office we're in right now, and that's just so we have computers and a place to do work.
That big.
Massive.
Okay.
We have 2 desks, and it's a little crowded with the 2 desks.
Okay.
Our office assistant Rachel works out of there too. But quite honestly, we're not in there a whole lot. You know, we don't have posted hours. We spend a lot of time throughout the county. You know, I have a lot of meetings in the different cities, places that we didn't used to pay a lot of attention to, like Lincoln and Rockland, Colfax, Forest Hill. You know, the county's been very specific about, we actually are contracts with the Economic Development Department.
Okay.
So arts is very important with economic development, and all these other cities and unincorporated areas of the county weren't really getting, you know, the benefit of our contract.
Or the benefits. Okay.
Right.
I must confess that I felt really possessive
Absolutely.
of the Arts Council of Placer County, since it was headquartered. Was it headquartered? Yes. In
Absolutely.
Auburn for so long.
Very long time. Yeah. In fact, I'll tell you, my career started at the Auburn Recreation District in the late 70s, and at that time, Arts Center was formed. So I was actually here when it first started. We ran a lot of programs with them too. So that's the problem that we have, I think, identity-wise, is that you know, there's that perception that we have maybe abandoned the Auburn area and everything. And I just don't want anybody to think that it's probably, if you look at our county, most of our really art-related headquarters are people in the Auburn area with our performing arts and the theater we have up here, all the artists we have up here. So we still try and do a lot of stuff in this area too.
And there's certainly, I know that Roseville has a thriving arts community.
They do. And Lincoln, I got to say, Lincoln, one of the stories I tell is that I went to a Arts League of Lincoln meeting early on. I actually started full-time in September to do this. And when I went to the meeting, it was the first time that anybody from the Arts Council had been to one of their meetings in probably 15 years. And so
Where have we been?
And, that was not very comfortable when I
Oh.
walked in, but I felt very confident that when we came out of that whole thing.
Okay.
And we have similar experiences in Colfax, in Forest Hill. They're really working hard on their economic development up there, so we were part of their plan when they worked up there. And just, helping all the other communities out too, and the arts.
So in your, when people in Auburn see you, and say, where the hell are you going? We're not going anywhere.
Right.
We're just focusing on the county as well as Auburn, and Auburn is part of the county.
Right. And I do, and I know it's going to be there that people think we left and that we're not paying attention, but I just, personally, I don't want anybody to feel like that. We have a lot of roots here. We're really involved with programs here too. We still were part of the Auburn Co-op and all the festivals here. We have outreach booths, and when we have pop-up art shows, we try to have them up here. We're having a concert in July here, so that kind of stuff. Just trying to spread it all. It's a difficult thing, but hopefully, we have made some headways in that, and I think a lot of our artists that become aware of what we're doing, I think, are feeling better about it now.
Okay.
But I don't blame anybody for feeling that way. I just hope that when they look at what we're doing and what we're supposed to be doing, that it kind of makes sense what we're trying to do. Yeah.
Okay.
We're trying.
Yeah.
It's not an easy thing. It really isn't.
No, it isn't.
I'll tell you, it's pretty funny. So,
you've changed something.
Right.
And change is not easy.
It's not easy at all. So, I grew up here in Auburn, went to high school here, went to college here at Sierra College, started my career and worked for 15 years. And I walked into my first meeting of the Arts Council, and somebody goes, "Oh, there's that guy from Rockland." So, so perception is very funny, because I ended my career with the city of Rockland. So, same thing could be true of me. I flew the coop too and came back. So, anyway, that's
So, why are you the executive director of Placer Arts? The Arts Council of Placer County.
That's only 50 cents so far, so you're not doing too bad. Get up to $1, you might be in trouble.
Why did you decide?
Well, it's fine. So I retired, and I wasn't sure what I wanted to do, and my honey-do list at home was very, very long when I started. And I thought, maybe I don't want to stay at home quite yet. I had some friends on the board here, and I came and talked to them. We actually talked about what they were going through, and I volunteered my services to see if I could help them get out of the situation they were in. Long story short, we worked together, and then I decided, well, I'll go ahead, and if you guys want to offer it to me, I'll stay on as the executive director, and I really want to see this thing through, and let's really work hard at making this what it needs to be. So that's why I'm still here, and so I think it's a really important thing. I like challenges like this. I really want to leave this in good hands whenever I would leave, with all the people we have here in the situation, because it's very hard nowadays. That's the other thing that's really a big important part of what we do, is having something sustainable for this funding too. You never know when funding might get cut for this kind of stuff, so getting more partners and sponsors and people into the arts is very important to start out with, and keep too, and not rely on just this funding that we get every year through these contracts.
The funding that you get every year is from the state of California?
Both. Yeah, it's the county, Placer County, and the state. So that, between those two, about 80% of that fund right there comes from the county. That also constitutes about 75% of our budget. And that actually needs to become less of our budget as we come up with these other funding things too. And all the rest of the money we're bringing in now is, and we'll talk about it in a little bit, I'm sure, is going towards our community grants, which is what we really are trying to sustain. And it's a big part of our contract with the county. But we realize that, down the future, it might be harder just to get the funding from the county. So if we have other ways to make this happen every year, and it's a good thing too, because that, people support that. And so if we are going out trying to raise this money for all the communities, and it goes right back to the arts, it's going to be a lot easier sell, I think, doing that.
So you say it goes right back to the arts. So I know the answer to this question, but you and the Arts Council of Placer County
I don't have to give you a quarterback to say it right.
are raising money for the area arts programs and artists. What are you using this money for?
Okay, so a couple things. So first of all, a lot of the county contract money goes back to that too. So we're dictated by our contract to give so much back for the grants. So the additional money we're raising, we're adding to that. So what we did was, from the very start, the contract we have with the county said that we would be giving money back to other organizations and supporting the arts. And nothing against anything that happened before my time, but it really wasn't happening. We were doing things that we thought at the time were good, but they end up kind of being our own little programs and just in a kind of an Auburn-centric kind of place. Even though there were certainly things that helped out the entire.
Sometimes it's a good thing.
Yes, and it was a good thing, and sometimes those programs also helped artists outside the area and people outside the area and that kind of stuff. But so this money now, we started a new community grants program this very first year of our fiscal year. So the county dictated that we were to give away $80,000 in community grants. So we worked with them. Our board worked with them.
So you had $80,000.
We had the money that they gave us.
The Arts Council of Placer County had $80,000.
Correct.
In its bank.
In its budget.
In its budget.
In its budget. The money allotted from the county, the money they gave us, that was specifically allotted to go to that. So this first year, we had $75,000 they allotted and dictated that we spend. And in our fiscal year this year, we're going to do about $80,000. So we were able to do, up it a little bit. Next year, I intend to do a lot more of that because we actually had a lot of expenses this year that we had to also do that. And there are some things now that we don't have expenses for that we hope go to those particular programs too. So that should go up, and I think we'll get more support from partners and sponsors and that kind of stuff. So
I want to get back to partners and sponsors, but this money, how do you give it away?
Okay, that's a good question. So we had to come up with something, right? So we actually came up with community arts guidelines. We had a application process that went till September of this past year, and then we had people apply for the grants, and then we had a committee that was formed from the different Placer County supervisory districts, one person from each one, and they then allotted that funding by the applications that came in. So you could get anywhere from $500 to $5,000, and there were strict guidelines as to who was eligible for them. And I would say from my standpoint, I think we did a great job of this year, but it also really helped us to figure out in the future, where should these go? We looked at where the money went this year, and I see some areas that, particularly maybe arts education for kids and things like that, that really wasn't part of that now we can look at this money and go, oh, this next year, let's specifically have categories for certain things, like, for instance, maybe it's just artists, so there were particularly artists that should get so much for public projects or whatever it is.
And these are public projects that you're looking for?
Correct. I think I don't have the terminology down very well, but it's kind of like for the public good kind of thing. You would look at it, your community has to, I know that this past year what had to happen is, in order to get a grant, you had to have your community leaders, whether it be the city you're in, or if you're in an unincorporated area, somebody, maybe a supervisor, sign off on the fact that they think this is a good thing for the community also. So, and it was great. I mean, we had everything ranging from particular art and public places projects to murals, but then to performing arts and getting back to the Auburn thing a little bit. So out of the first round, we haven't announced the second round yet because we awarded people, but we don't have all the paperwork in yet. So I would hate to announce somebody and then if they didn't get their paperwork right or we had to rescind it, that would not be good. But out of the first round, we gave around $60,000 out of the 80, and 9 out of the 14 recipients were actually from the Auburn area. So that was pretty good. So kind of woke up the rest of the county because there were a lot of other people in the second round.
Maybe because Auburn people weren't the only ones who felt that the Arts Council of Placer County focused on
You can't
Auburn.
look next time. I'm not going to make any money off you.
Maybe because the people figured that the Arts Council of Placer County was a misnomer, that it was really for Auburn, but now that you are promoting this idea of this is a Placer County arts organization.
It certainly opens up. But I will tell you, I mean, I think it was very justified, though, that a majority of those, maybe not a majority, but a lot of them came from Auburn. I don't think that will always be the split where 60 or 70% goes to the Auburn area, but it was well deserving. It wasn't just a fact that the people from Auburn did this. There was some great projects. And you know what we have here? We have the Performing Arts Center, and we have Placer Theater, and we have the Symphony, the Forgotten Soldier project downtown. I mean, these were great projects, too, that got funded.
Yes,
so,
that's wonderful.
Yeah, so I think this is, you've opened up the can of worms now. So in the future, this is going to be very difficult because, people will expect now that we got it last year, why don't we get it this year? And then all of a sudden we'll have a lot more applicants. It really showed because in the first round we didn't give away we only gave out 60. And so we only had, I think we got 55.
Only gave out $60,000.
But we had a lot of 75, right? But here's what happened. So then when and I'm actually wrong about that, it was 55,000 the first time. So we had another 25 we were going to give. So in the and that was, we pretty much funded everybody who was deserving of it the first time. In the second round, when we had 25,000 available, I believe that we were at about 55,000 in requests. So you can see how this is going to evolve as more people know about it.
That's a good thing.
It's a good thing. It's a good thing. I mean, personally, I would, I think it was a good way to evaluate this next year and see what we want the qualifications to be and where we want it to go and who would be deserving of this kind of stuff. So,
but isn't it better to have more than enough?
It is.
People flooding, it doesn't make it easier.
No, I agree with you. And it's too bad that really what didn't happen is that should have happened the first time. When we first had it, it would have been great if we had all the people apply the first time. Then you evaluate everybody on an even field, right? So it wasn't really equitable, really, because there were probably some people deserving, but there was only so much left after we did it the first time, kind of thing. So, but I'm sure that will change this next year.
Yeah.
Just so for information-wise, we're looking now, our fiscal year goes July to June. So we're looking at redoing the qualifications for this year and reposting those. We'll do that in July sometime, and the deadline will be in September again for 2019.
Thank you.
Yes.
We're taping this in June of 2018, and this is your fiscal year starts next month.
Next month, right?
Okay, and so the deadline for applying for
it'll be in September sometime.
September 2018.
Yes, and then we will. You know what? I'm saying that wrong, Susan. I'm so sorry. It'll open in September. It'll close in December, and we will allot the funds starting in January 2019. So I got a little mixed up on that. So right now, what we're doing the next couple months, we'll be looking at the qualifications and working with our partners in the county and the California Arts Council to fine tune a little bit and kind of think about where we do want to go with these grants and maybe make it a little more specialized. So we're really focusing on areas we think that we want money to go to certain areas, like I said, with the children's arts and things like that. I think arts education to me is one of the things that's really fallen by the wayside a little bit, and it's hard for us to, as one little agency to reach out. But that's kind of my goal, is to find something that could be a countywide kind of a focus. So
wow.
We'll see what happens.
Okay.
Good goal to have.
So we talked about, there's one aspect of your funding, which is the California and the county. But you're looking for other people to donate.
Right.
How do you
Well, we have a partnership program. So I've approached this really similar to my career was in parks and recreation and tourism. And so when we had Quarry Park in Rockland, we had sponsors of Quarry Park, and it's almost like a Friends of the Library thing when you go out and try and raise money. So what we're looking for is really kind of patrons of the arts to help us do that kind of stuff. And we're also focusing though on the benefits for businesses, because people have marketing budgets, they have advertising budgets too. That we have a lot of good benefits to doing this kind of stuff too, with
For example,
with our, anytime that people are in this, they will get tickets to our gala that we're running, which we'll talk about in a little bit.
Yes, we
There's
will.
a website presence. There's, we're in a lot of outreach programs, so we figured we're probably in front of 60 to 70,000 people in our outreach booths this year. So when a business looks at that and their logo, if they're one of our biggest sponsors are $5,000 sponsors, which is a year-round sponsor for everything we do. So for a $5,000 sponsorship, you'll get in front of 70,000 people, and you'll get some other perks with
By
websites.
in front of, you mean your logo?
Your logo.
In the publicity.
Right.
Okay.
All of our e-blast stuff that goes out, and anytime we have a big banner that goes out at all our outreach booths and that kind of stuff, anything on our website. And then, like I say, there's tickets to certain things. Like when we have our concert here in Auburn in July, our $5,000 sponsors will get tickets to that. If they're interested, there are some businesses that are very interested in their own outreach of these things, and so they would get booth opportunities to do that too. So
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
So you have a concert in July. The Arts Council of Placer County has a concert in July where? And
It's actually July 7th, and we're not running the concert ourselves. We're actually working with a local VFW here in Auburn. They're running the concert, and we're the beneficiaries of the concert, actually, one of the beneficiaries. I do believe, and I don't know this for sure, but I think they also, part of their money is going to VFW, and part of it's going to a new sculpture in the Forgotten Soldier in the downtown
Yes.
for Admiral, and I don't know who she
Yeah.
is, but yeah.
what?
Behind the scenes, they're telling us, and I can't hear it. So it is a very good cause, though, for sure. So
Bonnie Potter,
and I do apologize because I didn't know that, but that's another person that they're giving the money to also.
Great. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And another thing we're doing is we're getting back into running an annual fundraising gala, and so we have a terrific staff that's come up with this
When
great.
is this fundraising
This is
gala?
Friday, August 3rd, and it is at
2018.
2018,
Yeah.
and it is at the Blue Goose Event Center in Loomis, and it's going to be a 1940s theme. We have a couple of just fantastic singers that are very famous in the whole area. Peter Petty and Dana Murray are both. They just did a great show down at Quarry Park with the Beatles revival, but both of them are well known for their crooning abilities.
Oh, boy.
And so we're going to have a 1940s thing. Almost we stretched it a little bit, kind of the prohibition to 1940s, 20s to 40s a little bit. Try to take advantage of that. And our creative staff, give them a quick plug here. So it's Robin Gray and Heather Lincoln. They have come up with just a fantastic way to do all these little things we're doing during that. And we're raising money through the ticket sales, but also we're going to have an art auction at that. So all of our artists who want to participate are doing musically inclined sculptures, paintings, any kind of art objects that we'll auction off at this thing too.
Cool.
So it should be a lot of fun. You can go to placerarts.org on our site, and that's where the tickets are on sale. And we've done real well. We just put them on sale, and we're already probably 30% of the way there. So
Wonderful.
come down and have a good time. So
Wow.
yeah, it should be fun.
Yeah, that's a great location.
Yeah.
It's a lot of fun.
It is a great. It was. We looked around a lot trying to find places, but I love that place.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Good.
should be good.
That's wonderful. Okay. We've danced around this, and you've said that the arts are important. You said that the community needs the arts and this and that and the other thing. But why? Why?
Well, personally, this is going to come out as more of a personal thing than anything. So my background
Okay.
being in recreation and play, I always thought recreation is a very important thing too. That kind of takes a background. When you look at funding for things, you look at police and fire and emergency services. Those
They're
things
all
are all
important,
they're
too.
really
Yeah.
important. And what happens when you get into hard times, that some of the creative stuff kind of falls to the wayside. And so I personally think it's really important that we maintain our creative side, and it really does work with economic development and the quality of life in your cities. And if you look at public arts projects, you look at creative things that people are doing. Now, the other thing that's important in this discussion is what is art nowadays, and so art is really changing too. I don't know if you know about the maker movement, about maker fairs and that kind of stuff. Do you? So
Please tell me about the Maker Fair.
I'm not an expert in maker fairs, but I'll tell you, I was lucky enough to be on the team that started the one in Rockland. So maker fairs, what they like to call it, is the biggest DIY show on earth. So it's anybody that creates anything. And so if you look at Burning Man and all the big sculptures they do, this is kind of the ultimate makers thing, is that. But it's also people doing 3D printing and laser printing and creating textiles, their own clothing, and anything you can create. And so this is a big part of art nowadays, and this is art that transfers over to young people and looking at a new way of doing art. We certainly always want to think about our people that paint and do clay sculptures and that kind of stuff, but this is just another area that comes up, and so I think that's another important thing, to keep that alive and keep arts at the forefront and really important in culture and life and that kind of stuff. So yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Huh.
So that's why I think it's important, and it drives the economy too. So let's say that we're in the very start of talking to somebody about doing a film festival in our county, down here, and we're splitting it among our communities. Well, look at the economic advantages to doing something like that in our area. Or I've been talking to them about some art display, their installations that take place around the world. So they start in San Diego, and then they would go to Austin, Texas, and then the Bay Area. Well, what if that came up here? Just think about how much that would help our economy.
People would come.
Yes.
People would.
That's it. My Field of Dreams. I'm treating the Arts Council like Field of Dreams.
Yeah, sure.
Me being a big baseball guy and all.
People would stay and pay to stay. People would.
That's what it's all about, right?
People would spread the word. Yeah.
So another important part of our contract is just exactly what you said. So who should we be working with? Well, definitely the Visitors Bureau and Tourism is another group that's funded by the county also, that we will be working together on bringing these things up, because arts have a lot to do with tourism too. That'll bring a lot of people in. So I'm sure, I don't know if you've had Rob on yet, that Rob Haswell's just taken over the CEO of the Visitors Bureau, but I think that you'll see a lot of common programming going on with us too, and working together and that kind of stuff. So I'm going to use that. I think the Field of Dreams thing, if I can get James Earl Jones to do a little PSA for us, people will come. My favorite scene from a movie ever. It's so funny you brought that up today. So I can watch that show 100 times.
Yeah. The one of the people who started the Arts Commission, the Art Walk, Anthony Gill, said,
great guy.
Tells everybody who needs to know, and everybody who doesn't, I think, that you spend $1 on an arts program and you get $10 in return.
Absolutely.
I think that's the ratio, and it's a lovely in my opinion. The arts in a community is lovely.
Right.
For a community.
I totally agree with you, and I just feel like it's an extension of my career too, that you also forget about leisure services and recreation and kids play and all that kind of stuff. It all makes our next generation what they are. So I think it's really important. I did want to talk about one thing. Our biggest program of the year is the Studios tour that we run every year. So I want to talk about that a little bit. You can
coming up in November 2018.
Yep, it's November 9th through 11th. It's our 25th anniversary, and what we did is we brought back together the people who started the tour, which is great. So the tour founder is Helen Phillips. She came back to help us. Janet Nicholson has been on the tour for every single year. We have two of our former tour coordinators, Rosie Stillwell. So anybody who lives in Auburn knows Rosie. Everybody knows Rosie. Yeah. She's awesome. And Karen Killebrew, who also ran it before. Anyway, so that would be November 9th to 11th.
What is the deadline for artists to participate in this tour?
We're past that point, unfortunately. So so the next thing you'll be seeing is a lot of publicity for the artists who are on the tour for this year, and that's also on our website, placerarts.org.
And that'll be coming up soon. It's free to participate.
We'll have preview shows. One of the things I really like is we've expanded out with our preview shows now. So not only will we have one in Auburn for sure, Blue Line Gallery is going to host our Taste of the Tour. Roseville Galleria has a big show going on in November. We have some summer preview shows. Fawn Ridge Winery out here in Auburn is doing it. Flower Farm and Loomis. So it's great. Tony Laveau, we hired this year as our tour coordinator, as a contractor, and he's just doing a great job with it, along with the whole team that's working on it. So
I'm very fond of the studio tour.
It's great.
That's a great thing.
Unbelievable talent up here too. So and I can't tell you because not everybody knows yet, but we've chosen our cover art already for this year, and it's a local artist. So
of course it is.
Yeah. We'll be publicizing that real soon too, but we're very excited to have that person as the cover this year.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. So that's coming up in November. We have a concert on July 7th, 2018 at the
Gold Country Fairgrounds.
Gold Country
We didn't
Fairgrounds.
mention that. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And the evening at the Golden Canary Lounge, August 3rd at the Blue Goose Event Center in Loomis. If you want to find out more, placerarts.org, or you can email Jim at executivedirector@placerarts.org, or email the office at placerarts.org, and just look around. Just look around. Jim,
And let us know what we can do for you too.
Yeah, it's been a kick having you as my guest.
And by the way, Susan and I have known each other for a very long time, from those early ARD days, and it's so nice to see you again. I've seen you at a couple of the events now, and always a pleasure. So
thank you, Jim.
Yeah.
Good to see you.
You
and
too.
Thank you for joining me.
Thank you.
And thank you for watching.